Good afternoon, committee members, and also to our guests that are here today. Today is Wednesday, today's Tuesday. Sorry about that. I'm getting my sweet days already thinking about eating all that candy tomorrow. Today is Tuesday, February the 13th, 2024, and I here call the Population Committee Health Meeting to order. Clerk, would you please take the roll?
Clemens, Farmer, Helton Haynes, Himmer, Kumar, Rudder, Terry, Travis. Madam Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Clerk. And before we get started, are there any announcements or any personal orders from any of our committee members? Okay, seeing none, I do have one I need to let everyone know about. Our final calendar will be March the 5th, which means all bills that want to be heard in this session need to be put on notice by Wednesday, February the 28th, at no later than 3:30. So, okay. Are we ready to move on into our agenda for the day? So first, we are going to be starting out with House Bill 1895 by Chairman Zachary. Okay. And I believe you have some amendments. And so I wanted to make sure that we put the right amendment on your bill.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Chair and Committee. Madam Chair, the amendment we're going to be moving forward with is drafting code 13539.
Okay, thank you. Do I hear a motion and a second on adding this amendment? Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay, so we have amendment 013539 added on to House Bill 1895 by Chairman Zachary. And would you like to be recognized to explain your amendment?
Yes, ma'am. Yes. Well, actually, Madam Chair, could we put the amendment on the bill? Because it's a clarifying amendment. If we could do that, it'll make the explanation easier.
That's right. Yeah, we've got it on.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Madam Chair and members, this bill is simply a parental rights bill. It simply says this legislation prohibits an adult who is not the guardian of a parent or who is not a guardian or parent of a minor from facilitating an abortion for a minor. So with that explanation, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Okay, Chairman Zachary, we do have a couple people that have signed up to speak on this bill, so we would like to go out of session and hear those two to speak, and then we'll come back in session and we'll have questions and all. So we're going to go out of session. And the first person I have, and I'm not for sure if I'm going to say your name right, but Macy Fluharty, she here? Okay, please come down to the front and press the red button. Turn on your mic and state your name and who you represent. You'll have 2 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Macy Fluharty. I'm a Davidson County resident. It is no surprise that this elected body is again attacking children through legislation. By 2023, this legislature voted to take away life-saving health care from trans children and pregnant people of any age. These types of laws not only have a chance of severely harming the children that are subject to it, but they also challenge a family's right to keep a child alive and healthy. Tennessee has some of the most narrow exceptions for abortion, which do not include instances of rape or incest. Over 70% of Tennesseans disagree with their legislature's stance on this. Abortion is not an easy decision. Abortion can be considered a decision of survival, whether or not there are physical complications. Forcing a child into pregnancy and childbirth may be the legacy Tennessee legislatures wish to uphold, which, let's be clear, is exactly what this piece of legislation does in practice. But to go so far as to extend that control into other states in the land of the free is illegal. The state of Tennessee does not have the authority to prevent anyone from accessing care in a state where it is legal. Depending on the pregnant person's age, a forced pregnancy can result in harm to both the parent and the baby. Taking away the bodily autonomy of a child to give personhood to a fetus can have severe effects on a child, both physically and mentally. For anyone who doesn't want to see a child suffer through a forced pregnancy, this bill aims to criminalize them for having a heart. Furthermore, it is not only limiting access to the type of health care a pregnant person may need, but it also controls where a U.S. citizen can travel in their own country. If a pregnant minor confides in a trusted adult seeking help, the person they are trusting is now forced to choose between their own freedom and the freedom of an innocent child. What happens if the person doesn't know an abortion is planned or if the passenger is even pregnant? 92% of abortions occur in the first 12 weeks of pregnancy, which would be easy for a young person to hide, even from a trusted adult. We have seen this body infringe upon personal rights for years, and now it would go so far as to control where Tennesseans can travel within their own country.
I'm sorry, your 2 minutes is up. So now we will take questions from any of our members. Does anyone have any questions? Clemens, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Fluharty,
Mhm.
did you have something else to add?
I was just going to say that this is unjust, especially considering that these people are traveling to access healthcare that they genuinely need and that Tennessee will not allow them. And please vote no.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for our? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, we have Danielle Pimentel. Please come and turn on the red button for the mic and state your name, and you will also have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And good afternoon. My name is Danielle Pimentel, Policy Counsel at Americans United for Life. And today I urge your support of this bill, which seeks to protect pregnant minors from abortion violence, as well as protect the rights of parents to the care and upbringing of their daughters. Adolescent girls are a vulnerable population, especially when pregnant. A 2023 national study found that over 60% of women who've had abortions report experiencing high levels of pressure to abort from one or more sources. And research shows that minor girls are more likely to feel pressured into an abortion than adult women. The bill aims to protect against this type of coercive abuse and deter abusers from trafficking minor girls to obtain abortions, criminal abortions. And this is a legitimate concern here for Tennessee minor girls, given the prevalence of coerced abortions. And this is in fact happening. Recently, the Missouri Attorney General said they uncovered evidence of Planned Parenthood in that state trafficking of minors across state lines without parental consent to obtain abortions. The bill also seeks to protect the physical and psychological health of pregnant minor girls. Adolescents do not have fully developed decision-making capabilities, which is why parental guidance is instrumental for an adolescent's patient's informed consent. Parental involvement ensures that parents have the ability to monitor for post-abortive complications as well, which can be life-threatening. And ultimately, parental involvement is necessary because many adolescents have high-risk pregnancies and often delay prenatal care. So it's essential for the state to strengthen parental involvement, and that's exactly what this bill does by instituting necessary safeguards for minor girls in this state, who again have increased physical and psychological risks when pregnant. The bill is, lastly, I know I'm running up on my time, so I'll end with this. The bill is also consistent with the nation's rich history of protecting parental rights. The Supreme Court has recognized that parents do have the constitutional right to the upbringing of their child and to be involved in medical decisions about their children. Again, this bill honors that right. Thank you so much, Madam Chair and honorable members of the committee, for your time. I'm happy to answer any questions, and I urge your support of this bill.
Okay, thank you very much. Do any of our members have any questions for our guest? Okay, seeing none, we will go back into session. We're back in session, and we will have Chairman Zachary.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, members, just to reiterate, this legislation is a parental rights bill. In the state of Tennessee, you cannot take a child to an emergency room or any medical facility to obtain treatment without their parents' permission if they're under 18. So this legislation simply says that if you are an adult and you are not allowed to take a minor who is not your child for any procedure related to an abortion without the parental consent. And the amendment that we added, Madam Chair, did make clear that while I don't like it, if a parent does sign off, it allows that child to go with another adult to facilitate an abortion. And again, one last thing, there was a mention in the initial testimony from the young lady about something related to criminalizing actions out of state. Of course, we can't do that. We can only pass law that pertains to Tennessee. This legislation doesn't anyway, never does it use the phrase out of state. That's not in here at all. It says travel within the state. So just to make that clear. So I'll be glad to answer any additional questions.
Okay, thank you, Chairman Zachary. Do any of our members have any questions? Okay, Representative Karen Clemens, you're recognized.
Too early for Valentine's Day, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. I have a series of questions, as you can imagine, several legal questions. And this is a very emotional topic, but I want to take emotion out of this to the extent possible and make sure we're just focusing on this language that I have questions about. So can you define for me what you mean by the word recruits?
You're recognized, Chairman Zachary.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And so I did ask legal to define all these terms within TCA, and there's no definition for recruiting. So that would be simply the Oxford definition of recruiting, which means to entice someone and work to establish a relationship with someone. I'm adding to that in order to get them to do something that you would have them to do.
Representative Clem.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And so I've printed out the definition from the dictionary of the word recruit, and there are several, and here it's being used as a verb, perhaps transitive verb, and the options are to fill up the number with new members, such as in recruit an army, to enlist as a member of an armed service, to increase or maintain the number of people recruited, to secure the services of, or to seek to enroll, or replenish, or to restore or increase the health, vigor, or intensity of. Which of those definitions, or would you adopt all of them as for the plain language of this?
Chairman Zachary.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So according to legal, since it's not defined in TCA, that if legal action is brought, that would be up to the deciding parties.
Okay, and so for the purposes of just using the plain definition of the word recruits, hypothetically, would that word or recruiting, as you have accepted the definition from legal, would that include any type of conduct that might include speaking in any way to entice, as you said?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And again, because the definition is not clearly laid out in TCA, recruiting, just based on the definitions. You described the definitions that I looked up in the Oxford Dictionary. Words could certainly be used in some aspect, but again, that would be for if there's a legal action taken, that would be up to the courts to determine that.
But hypothetically, could that include speaking in any manner to entice someone?
If we're doing hypotheticals, to recruit, it could include just about anything.
Including speaking?
It could include just about anything.
And, okay, so does the same apply for your definition of harbors? Did you seek the same guidance from legal for the purpose of that definition?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I did. In terms of recruit, harbor, and transport, those are not clearly defined in TCA. So again, if legal action was taken, it would be up to those defending parties to work on that, whatever definition is established in that litigation related to these terms.
So with that, again, having printed out the definition here from the dictionary, the options are to give shelter or refuge to be the home or habitat of, or to hold especially persistently in the mind, to take shelter in or as if in a harbor. Are those the types of definitions that you accept as the meaning of this?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And so the amendment that we added to the bill that was worked on by TMA, Vandy, and others, it addressed some of those concerns that they had related specifically to the medical community to ensure that if a minor is receiving treatment, that is not included within this.
Okay, thank you. So with regard to subsection C there, it says this section does not apply to the parents or legal guardian of an unemancipated minor. That exclusion for parents or legal guardians, what is the situation if the sole parent or guardian is the rapist of the young lady who's carrying the child?
Chairman Zachary.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That would then fall under, according to DCS, that would fall under 37-1, 107 through 115, just as any other abuse would, where you have the ability to petition. You can ask the court for an ex parte request, and that those the guardianship rights can be removed. So whether it's sexual abuse, physical abuse, this same thing would apply here. TCA, you move to TCA 37-1, 107 through 115, which allows the rights to be removed and for that child to get treatment.
So, okay, based on your response then, if a child or an unemancipated minor in this statute wanted to seek health care and their only sole parent or guardian was their rapist, that child would have to go to court to petition a court to get access to health care or advice or assistance with reproductive health care services?
Chairman Zachary.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, it depends on your definition of healthcare. I do not define abortion, which is the killing of a baby. I do not define that as healthcare.
Okay, well, thank you for that. But some states fairly describe it otherwise or consider it otherwise. And so my question then is, you define this as a parent rights bill. So here we have an exception for the parents or legal guardians, but in some situations, the sole parent or legal guardian may be the rapist. So my concern here is if a child wants to get advice, wants to get assistance in any way, perhaps even to get health care as you or others may define it, they first have to go find a lawyer or go into a court alone to petition the court for help to then go with them to give them consent. Because as you said, this is a parental consent bill. Are you concerned that that's leaving that unemancipated minor on an island and putting a lot on a child's shoulders who not only was raped, but they were raped by a trusted individual and the only individual under this bill who can give consent for them to get treatment of the type that you were apparently intending to prevent?
Chairman Zachary.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There's nothing in this legislation that prohibits a child from receiving health care.
Okay. What about if a child visits a website and seeks information on a website? Under this bill, is the host of that website liable for civil or criminal penalties?
Chairman Zachary.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This legislation specifically pertains to the facilitation of an abortion without the parent's consent.
Okay, Representative Clemens, one or two more questions, and then we're gonna, I think Representative Himmer has some questions also.
Okay, well, thank you, Madam Chairman. And I apologize. These are just straight up legal questions that I want to get on the record. It's better, I think, for us to do the heavy lifting in the subcommittee before we get to the full committee, if that's where this bill ends up. And so I would just ask for your patience to allow me to get through a few of these questions. And again, I'm not being argumentative. I just want to get some of these fair questions asked. So if a website provides information that informs a child what states, in which states abortion is legal, or where a rape crisis center is located, or where to get access to reproductive health care of any time, would they be civilly or criminally liable under this bill?
Chairman Zachary.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And let me just say this before I answer Chairman Clemens. Madam Chair, I appreciate the questions, and I appreciate the way Chairman Clemens is approaching this, and this is productive, and this is what we need. So I'm as long as you guys have time, I'm good. We can stand here all day long. I'll be glad to answer his questions. I appreciate the way that we're having a back and forth. So, Chairman, the legislation is fairly clear. Concealing, procuring, and obtaining would be, if someone assists or facilitates in that way, that would be a violation of this statute.
So in section E, subsection E2, you allow in capital A there, the biological mother of the unborn child can file suit. So would this bill allow an unemancipated minor to sue her healthcare provider because she asked them a question about reproductive health care or abortion or any question related to abortion?
So based on what you asked in the section you reference related to a biological mother would be able to bring civil action against someone who concealed, harbored, or facilitated an abortion.
Thank you. So the biological mother, in the broad definition of the word recruits, harbors, if they ask their medical care provider a question about abortion in any way, or if they ask them in what states abortion was legal, and that doctor responded to that question, that young lady could then bring a civil action against the doctor for answering her question. Is that right?
Chairman Zachary.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We actually address that within the amendment regarding medical consultation, medical diagnosis. And medical consultation is laid out in F, Section 1.
And does consultation include answering questions about abortion, access to abortion, or how to obtain an abortion?
That would be up to legal in terms of the definition of consultation.
And for the purposes of this bill, are we adopting the Merriam-Webster or other dictionary definition of the word consultation?
That would be up to legal.
We'll go to legal after I finish, Madam Chair. All right. Now, you said earlier that this amendment that you've attached to Bill 013539 was drafted by whom?
Chairman Zachary.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Among others, TMA, Vandy, TRL. Among others, and forgive me, Chairman Clemens, the email, those were the three names I remember on the email, but it was a consultation of numerous groups. And let me make clear, there was no endorsement of this legislation, but those parties worked together to establish language that those groups would be comfortable with moving forward, but that was clearly not an endorsement of the bill. Let me make that clear.
Okay, thank you. Because I've not heard from any of those organizations about this legislation, pro or con, concerningly. I've heard from a lot of their members or people who might otherwise be members or employees of those institutions. And so I find it very concerning that they assisted with the furtherance of this legislation, giving its limiting access to health care. Does under subsection F2 on that amendment, Does current law not already allow a doctor to deliver the standard of care to save a life in the case of a pregnant woman?
Chairman Zachary.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Chairman Clemens, without having that statute in front of me based on the trigger bill that we passed, I believe that's what you're referencing. I believe there was an exception for the life of the mother. And again, not having that in front of me, I do know that was included in that, if that's what you're referencing. And then, and one more before I go back. And again, let me just make clear, Chairman Clemens, regarding your questioning, regarding those groups, we had an engagement with those various groups that I did mention, but I want to make clear there by no means was an endorsement. I want to be fair to them. There was no endorsement of this legislation, but there was an engagement on our part to ensure the language addressed some of the concerns that even members of this committee had regarding the medical community. So we want to provide absolute clarity. So I just don't want to leave that point and leave that hanging anyway. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And so the way I read F2 in this amendment, it reads as if a doctor could call an ambulance or arrange for travel in an ambulatory situation for an 18-year-old or a 19-year-old, but they couldn't do the same for a 17-year-old under the exact same circumstances. Is that a
Chairman.
fair reading of that provision?
Chairman Zachary.
No, Chairman Clemens is actually the opposite. 3 says the section does not prohibit a licensed physician or another person from calling an ambulance for a minor patient if it's a medical emergency, is defined in 3915-218. So it's actually just the opposite.
So they could seek ambulatory services for an unemancipated minor in the event that they were pregnant and were having a situation that threatened their health or life.
Chairman Zachary.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And that's why we put that language in section 3.
Okay. I'll leave it there, Madam Chair. Thank you for your patience. Thank you to Chair Zachary for answering those questions. And I may have a follow-up let me digest this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Representative Himmer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Question around section E2. You say this is a parental rights bill, but was curious around a situation if a mother agrees to do this travel for the healthcare services, but the father doesn't. Would that create a situation where a mother and the father could potentially sue one another?
Chairman Zachary.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That's not referenced in this. So we make clear that a parent or guardian has to give consent. If they give consent, then that allows for the treatment of that minor related to an abortion.
So if one parental, unit agrees and the other doesn't, then that would one of their rights would be voided, I guess, in that regard.
Chairman Zachary.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That'd be an issue for the courts.
Relatedly, what if a parent or legal guardian gives consent to another person to allow the minor to go out of state and them to do the transporting? Would they potentially still be at risk, even though the parent did give parent or legal guardian did give permission?
Chairman Zachary.
Thank you, Madam Chair. No, that's what we reference in the amendment.
Speaking of the amendment, my reading of it still gives a lot of risk to these physicians who are trying to keep the patient safe. And from my research, American Academy of Pediatrics, American Medical Association, American College of Obstetrics and Gynecologists actually oppose these mandatory parental involvement laws because of that. So how do you take into factor that a doctor is having a Hippocratic oath to protect and do no harm to these patients, but because of the restrictions in these laws, we're not able to voice their opinion or actually give life-saving advice to their people?
Chairman Zachary.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Representative Himmer, it's important to remember that, again, nowhere in code do we allow a minor to receive medical treatment without a parent's consent. And so what this legislation simply does is ensures that no one who is not the parent or guardian can facilitate an abortion for a minor. And 51% of abortions now, if I've got my statistics right, the last one I looked at, 51% of abortions now are being conducted using the pill. And so we reference that specifically in here. And so again, to your question, it kind of all comes back to the fact that you wouldn't allow your child to be treated without your permission. Again, we're talking about minors. We're talking about children. In the state of Tennessee, children have the ability to make very few legal decisions on their own. And so what we're simply saying in this bill is no adult can facilitate an abortion for a minor in which they're not the parent or guardian.
Thank you. We'll talk about kind of the surveillance criminal portions in this bill. How do you envision forcing the criminal portion without broadly surveilling all these Tennesseans who are traveling, communicating across? So if the state of Tennessee was pulling over, cars over Memphis, Chattanooga, Johnson City, et cetera, administering pregnancy tests to kids in the car. I mean, just curious are these doctors going to be, again, putting an extra risk of being a kind of an actor of the state in reporting these?
Chairman Zachary.
Thank you, Madam Chair. No, Representative, obviously that'd be absurd. Just like any other crime, I mean, someone will have to report this crime. And so I'll give you a specific example. Since we're going to walk down this road, I'll just keep walking. I was involved about a year and a half ago personally. I was involved in a situation where a dad called me in my district and said that their daughter had been taken against their permission. She was pregnant. A daughter had been taken against their permission to West Tennessee. The daughter called them from West Tennessee and said, they're taking me across state lines to get an abortion. This dad crying. I could hear the mom in the background. He said, what can you do to stop it? And I made call after call after call, and there was nothing I could do to stop it because an adult, they felt like coerced their 14-year-old child to go to West Tennessee, and then they took that child across state lines against the parents' wishes to get an abortion. Again, if we put any other medical term, replace abortion with any other medical term, I would assume any parent in here would not allow their child to be coerced and taken by an adult across state lines to get any medical procedure. But somehow it's okay if it's the abortion, if it's the killing of a baby in a minor child. No way. No way.
And I just want to say, being a parent, a grandparent, our schools are not even allowed to give a child a Tylenol without the permission of their parent or legal guardian, or a baby aspirin, nothing. So I just, when you say this, I mean, they're not even allowed to give a baby aspirin to a child without. So to think about taking them across state line to have an abortion is.
And Madam Chair, and if I may, and again, that's an example why we can't regulate anything in Arkansas, Missouri, Illinois. This legislation only pertains to Tennessee. Well, I wish we could do more. Again, this only pertains to Tennessee. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Chairman. And Himmer, you got a question? Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you. I think the situation you describing, while traumatic for that individual and that family, I think that actually is already illegal in the books under kidnapping, if I'm reading that right. So not understanding how this would actually do anything different. I had a question around, I've seen other states put forth this bill, most notably Idaho, which is kind of already having constitutional concerns. And in fact, actually, even our Attorney General has spoke up on this subject in an interview, which I'll read his quote, said, I think there's real constitutional issues that have to be looked at, whether the legislature could do that. I mean, this is America. People have a right to travel, so I don't want to speculate on that too much. But I think there'd be significant constitutional impediments if there was ever an issue. So having said that, how do you feel about the constitutional concerns in this and the fact that this would be costing taxpayer money to defend a bill that's clearly has constitutional issues as listed and spoken upon by the Attorney General already?
Chairman Zachary.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Representative Hammer, if you can point to me anywhere in this legislation where it talks about interstate travel, we can have that conversation. There's intrastate travel mentioned, but anywhere you can point to me about anything else related to any other state, we can have that conversation, or I can have it with Chairman Clemens.
Okay.
Are there any more questions for our sponsor, Representative Clemens?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Representative Zachary, wouldn't you agree that most people have to travel to get to the state line?
Chairman Zachary.
I would assume unless they live on the state line, yes.
Okay. Madam Chair, can we go out of session really quick to ask legal a few questions as referenced by Representative or Chairman Zachary?
Yes, we can. Check with Chairman Kumar. Did you want to ask your questions first, or do you want us to go out of session and ask legal, or and then come back and ask yours? What would you like? Okay. Okay, we're going out of session to hear from legal.
Surprise. No. Sorry, you've been dragged into this. My questions are, you've been referenced as far as giving the definitions of recruits and harbors. Under the definition, as you have seen or as was referenced, does recruiting or recruits, as used in here as a verb, does that conduct or type of conduct include speaking in any way?
That's going to be a question for the court to decide. I can't speculate on how a court's going to rule on that. When we don't have when the term is not defined in law, the court does look to the usual and ordinary meaning. I can't speculate as to what dictionary they're going to consult or how they're going to interpret that based on the facts of each individual case. But that would be a decision for the court to make.
Thank you. And is pregnancy care defined in Tennessee code?
I don't believe it is. No, sir.
And does, if pregnancy care is not defined in Tennessee code, would it be your understanding or legal's understanding that that includes an abortion?
Again, that would be a decision for the court to make. The bill as amended says that it mentions what is not included in a medical diagnosis or consultation regarding pregnancy care, but it does not define what is included as part of pregnancy care.
And what is the definition of consultation?
Consultation is also not defined within our code. So again, that would be an issue for the court to decide based on the facts and circumstances of each individual case that is before them.
If a child is in foster care in the state of Tennessee, who is their legal guardian?
There would be a court order on that. If they are in foster care, it is either probably DCS, I would just.
So in some circumstances, the state would be the guardian.
That is certainly possible, yes.
All right.
They are in DCS custody, yes.
That's all I have for legal. I have 2 follow-up questions for the sponsor, Madam Chair.
Okay. Does anyone else have any questions for legal while we're out of session? Okay. Seeing none, we're back in session, and Representative Clemens.
Did you want Kumar to go first?
Kumar, do you want to go ahead then, and then come back to you, or?
Let him go first. He was up first on the list.
Okay. Okay, we'll go with Chairman Kumar then.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Chairman Zachary, for bringing this very difficult problem to us. But we live in a society that's very divided. And this is part of our society. That's why we have so many people with major concerns and differences here. Pregnancy in a minor is a tragedy. The results are going to be difficult. And a child needs a parent. They need love, and nobody loves a child more than the parent does. So I think encouraging the situation in such a way that a child gravitates towards the parent to seek love and care, that's the best outcome for the society. What this bill is trying to do is prevent the tragic situation that a child is trapped in a circle or trapped in sexual trafficking, and the person who has most control over them is not their parent, and they are able to transport them to a place to get an abortion. That is what this bill, to me, tries to avoid from happening. And again, a child needs a parent, and that is what we should be encouraging by all means. The situation where a parent is not worthy of a child's trust, that is, there is rape or incest. And I've had that conversation with Chairman Zachary, I think a couple times, and I see that the only outcome there at that time is for a trusted adult to step in and help that child navigate that circumstance. And if it is necessary to seek a court intervention, that would have to be. But it is not that in a situation where there is incest, the child has nobody to turn to. Well, a trusted adult is needed. And once again, it's a matter of protecting that child for the best outcome in a very tragic situation. We are a divided society, and I said it the last time, and I think it still applies. A pregnant minor presents the most difficult of situations to us and to community and the country at large. About a half of us believe it is unconscionable to allow and force this child to go through a pregnancy to term. The other half believes it is murder and morally wrong to kill the child. It's not the child's fault. It's really not the child's fault. That is how divided we are. But this is, again, I'm grateful to Chairman Zachary for trying to tackle a situation. The child, if possible, doesn't fall in the wrong hands, turns towards parents, and avoid a second tragedy from happening, and that is the loss of a life. Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Chairman Zachary.
Chairman Zachary, you got any
No, ma'am.
follow?
Thank you, Madam
Okay.
Chair. Thank you, Dr.
Representative
Kumar.
Clemens.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have two follow-up questions. Chairman Zachary, you stated very emphatically earlier that you do not believe abortion is healthcare, or you said abortion is not healthcare. So my question then is abortion pregnancy care?
Chairman Zachary.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The abortion is the killing of a baby.
Does pregnancy care, as you use it in the amendment, include abortion?
Chairman Zachary.
And Chairman Clements, could you give me the section you're referencing where it says pregnancy care so I can be able to?
Yes, sir. F2 in the amendment that we've adopted here today.
I'm sorry, Chairman Zachary.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, Chairman Clemens, I'm not trying to dodge your question. The definition of pregnancy care, we would need to ask legal what falls under that definition of pregnancy care. But to me, pregnancy care would be treating the mother and the child in utero.
Thank you, Chairman Zachary. And I asked legal a few moments ago, and they said it was not defined in the code. And so that's what I'm trying to get to is your intent. And I think you just stated your intent that it would not include abortion. And so I think that may nullify the intent of F2, that exception that was language that was worked on by the TMA, Vandy, and others.
Representative Clemens, I've got legal wants to follow up on that, if you don't mind. So we'll go out of session and let legal follow up on your question there.
Michelle Fogarty, Office of Legal Services. Just to clarify, F2 says that a medical diagnosis or consultation regarding pregnancy care does not include performing or attempting to perform an abortion, as abortion is defined in 3915-213.
So what does that mean?
Wait a minute.
In reference to F1, the section does not apply to the provision of a medical diagnosis or consultation regarding pregnancy care. And then F2 says medical diagnosis or consultation regarding pregnancy care does not include performing or attempting to perform an abortion.
And does not include refer to the diagnosis or consultation or regarded in pregnancy care?
I believe it refers to the entire phrase of medical diagnosis or consultation regarding pregnancy care. But again, that would be ultimately a decision for the court as to how it's interpreted.
Any more questions for legal before we go back into set? Chairman Terry has a question.
And to clarify, 39-15-213, that's criminal abortion.
Michelle Fogarty, Legal Services, that is the offense of criminal abortion. And in that statute, there are definitions, one of which is the definition of abortion.
Right.
It's referencing that definition.
Thank you.
Are there any more questions for legal before we go back in session? We can always go out again, so. Okay, we're back in session, and Chairman Clemens, it's your turn. You're up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So with that information and perspective from legal, is it your intention for there to be an exception for diagnosis or consultation regarding abortion by medical providers as exempted in F2?
Chairman Zachary.
I'm sorry, forgive me, Chairman Clemens. I was reading the other section. Ask your question again. My apologies.
So given the information we were provided by legal, is it your intent with this legislation for abortion to be included in that exemption of a medical diagnosis or consultation regarding pregnancy care
Thank
in
you, Madam.
F2?
Thank you, Madam Chair. As it says here, pregnancy care does not include performing or attempting to perform an abortion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And with regard to the legal guardianship of a child in foster care, as legal said, they would be considered the state in some circumstances would be intended to be, or would be the guardian of a child. So is it your intent with this legislation for, in certain circumstances, the state of Tennessee to recruit, harbor, or transport a pregnant, unemancipated minor within the state for the purpose of an abortion?
Chairman Zachary.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My intent is to protect the guardianship and the parental rights for any guardian or any parent that is overseeing a minor child.
And thank you, Madam Chair. And in certain circumstances, that guardian could be the state of Tennessee. So would you be okay with the state of Tennessee allowing an unemancipated minor to get an abortion?
Chairman Zachary.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Chairman Clemens, I'm going to make my position very clear. I'm never good with an abortion, period, end of story.
Is it your intent with this legislation to prevent the state under any circumstance or every circumstance of an unemancipated minor from getting an abortion?
Chairman Zachary.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My intent is to protect every unemancipated minor who is under the guardianship or under the cover of a parent.
But you have stated that this is about parental consent. And so if the focus is on the parent, and in some circumstances that would be the state of Tennessee, are you seeking to prohibit or prevent the state of Tennessee from doing any of these things with regard to an abortion with this
Chairman
law?
Zachary.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My intent with this is to protect every life, and every unborn child. That is my intent.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. Chairman Kumar.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't know if it's necessary, but we were talking about when is abortion necessary or is abortion pregnancy care? Medically speaking, abortion can be pregnancy care in a situation where the life of the mother is at risk, or something needs to be done to protect the baby, or in situations where there are such major abnormalities of the baby that an abortion is necessary. Those are medical decisions, but we would have to remember that those alone are not all covered in our current law in the state of Tennessee. So I think we have to remember that. But medically speaking, there are conditions in which abortion would be part of pregnancy care. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Kumar. Are there any other questions for our sponsor? Okay, seeing none, I believe that we are probably ready to vote on this bill. So all in favor of House Bill 1895, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed?
No.
The ayes have it. We're moving on to full health next week.
Thank you, Madam Chair and committee.
Okay. Has there been a proper motion to adjourn? Okay. Meeting is adjourned.